Today we're going to look at part 1 of our programming fundamentals, which is sequence, selection and iteration. Now some of us might actually look and think, well, why haven't we done this at the beginning? And it's because some of the skills that you require, like printing and variables, constants, etc., they all need to be done beforehand before you can actually see all this and see how it works. So in this video, like I say, it's going to be like a two-parter. We're going to have a look at sequence and selection this video. Next video, you're going to have a look at iteration. Okay, so we're going to cover in this video today sequence, and we're also going to have a look at selection based on if statements and also switch statements. So your programming fundamentals almost work a little bit like this pyramid you can see here. You have the 3 sections of sequence, selection and iteration, and together they form your full program. Majority of programs that you're going to have, no matter how small or big they are, they're more or less going to encompass one or more of these fundamentals. I can guarantee that every single program that you write will include sequence, and then selection and iteration will then be used to actually enhance your program and make it a little bit more usable rather than it being a very linear program. So let's have a look at what sequence is. So sequence is all about having your instructions in the actual correct order. A lot of you will have used this before. Now think about if you're making a program that added 2 numbers together, you'd need to get the numbers first and then add them before you can actually have the total. If you tried to print out the total first, it wouldn't exist and your program would result in an error. Or if you've initialized it as 0 as like a placeholder at the beginning, the answer would always be 0. It wouldn't make sense. It's the same way of if I'm getting ready and I need to put my socks and shoes on, I wouldn't put my shoes on first and then my sock, because that's not right. Now this slide usually would cut to a demo. Now I'm not actually going to bother demoing sequence to you. We've done this before. We've shown you how to sequence your instructions to get to an answer that you want to do, and you're going to see it in further examples. So let's move straight on to selection. So selection is the best way of making your program change its behaviour based on a given input. And you can do it with if statements or you can use switch statements. And I'm going to show you both. Switch statements have started making a very big push within the new GCSE specification for OCR. So it is worth knowing. But it is also worth knowing that not all programming languages support them. So selection uses Boolean operators. So Boolean operators return a bool type of either true or false. So like in the last video, we can use these Boolean operators to make our program make decisions and choose what to do. So let's have a look at an example. So here you can see a program that is asking someone to enter a password, and it's checking if a password is the same as the one they've got stored. So you can see that the password is password with a capital P, followed by an exclamation mark, and the numbers 1, 2, 3. And you can see here we've said if the user input is equal to the password, then print access granted. Otherwise, print access denied. Now this is written in OCR exam reference language, and this is where the exam board will present code to you within the exam if you're sitting the OCR exam board. If you're sitting something like AQA or something, or Equidas, etc., you will get something very, very similar, but it won't be the same. So you can see this is a very much one answer or the other answer. But we can make our if statements change so that we can have multiple answers. And we can use this using an else if clause. So you can see this time the user is going to enter their age. If their age is greater than or equal to 18, then it will print out you are an adult. Otherwise, If the age is greater than or equal to 11, then print you are a young person. If it's anything else, then print you are a child. Because I've already gathered in everything that needs to be there. Everything that's greater than 18 will be an adult. Anything that's greater than 11 but less than 18, it prints you are a young person. And if it's anything else, so that's anything that's younger than 11, it'll print you are a child. So you can see it works through these clauses in the order written. So first it will check if the age is greater than 18. If it is, then it will do this and it will just skip the rest. If it's not, it will check against the next clause. And if it's still not true, we then go into else. You can add as many else if blocks as you wish. That is absolutely fine. It's your choice. You can make your if statements as long or as short as you wish. Let's have a look at an example. So let's demo this. So here is my coding environment. I've opened up Replit again. I've made a selection.java file and we're going to be working in here today. So let's work on the basis that we are going to let's make the age one, for example. So because I need to get input, let me just import java.util.scanner, and then I've got that for me. So scanner input equals new scanner system.in. There we go. Right, so let's do system.out.println enter your age. Right, and then we'll have int age is equal to, and now I'm going to use casting. So I'm going to say integer dot parse int, and we're going to have input dot next line. Now you could do that on a multi-level and also add a try-catch block like we discussed in a previous video, but I'm going to assume that they're always going to enter a number, so we can go from there. Let's start writing our if block then. So if, and this time we've got to use brackets when we're using Java. So if, and then we put our condition in the bracket. If age is greater than or equal to 18, then, so instead of using the then block, we use curly brackets. Then system.out.println you are an adult. And you can put as many statements as you want between those curly brackets. Else if age is greater than or equal to 11, and we can say system.out.println you are a young person. And finally, else system.out.println you are a child. Right, let's run this code and see how it works. So entering our age, so I'll enter my age here, which is 27. So if I press enter, it now says you are an adult. Let's try a different one. So press run, and this time let's put in 16. You are a young person. And let's try one more time with one that'll get into the else statement. and let's say 7, you are a child. So that is the very basics of how this would work. Let's have a look at the other example using the password. So you can see I've already put in some of the code already. So I've kept my scanner. I've made a password variable that's storing the word password with a capital P followed by an exclamation mark and 1, 2, 3. System.out.println, enter a password, string user input equals input.nextLine. When we're using strings, it's a little bit different to how we use when we're using integers or any other data type. If you've come from Python, then you'll know that the if statements look very similar to how we had a look in the previous section. But this time, because we're using classes for our strings, they actually have methods in there that help us do this better. So we can say if, and we'll put user input dot, and we're going to say equals. So there are two options when we're using this equals. We have equals and we have equals ignore case. Ignore case will allow you to check it, and it doesn't matter whether there's capital letters, lowercase, etc. Equals on its own, it has to be an exact replica of what we are checking against. In this case, because we're using passwords, we probably want the capital letters and it to be case sensitive. So we'll say if the user input dot equals password, then we can say system.out.println, and we can say access granted. Oops. If it's anything else, we can say system.out.println access denied. There we go, my spelling's a bit all over the place today. Right, let's click run and we'll see what happens. So I can enter my password. So let's put in what we've got there just to make sure that it does work. And you can see there we get access granted. If we try again, but this time I'll type it all lowercase and we'll see what happens. So we'll say password 1, 2, 3, all lowercase, access denied. Let's just try something very, very different just to make sure that it is all working. So if I put in T-Lunch Computing, for example, and press enter, we get access denied as well. Right, let's have a look at the next bit of selection, which would be switch statements. Switch statements are a cleaner way of checking input against multiple cases. So let's have a look at an example. Switch cases would be used when you have many examples where using if statements, it just look messy. So this is a more elegant way of showing it. So here's a very simple example. So we're going to have them enter a day or the number of day that we're on. So for example, Monday would be 1, Tuesday would be 2, so on, so on, so on. So you can see there we've got day equals 3. And then we're going to put day into the switch. So we're going to say, right, in the case that it is 6, print Saturday. In the case that it is 7, print Sunday. And if it's anything else, print it's a weekday. Okay, so that's very simple of what a switch statement is. So you can say instead of putting if it is equal to this, otherwise if it's equal to this, else if it's equal to this, so on, so on, so on. This is a much cleaner way of doing it. It is worth knowing that not every programming language has switch statements to use. So for example, Java's had switch statements for quite a long time. Python, I believe, has just started getting switch statements from the time of recording this. Let's demonstrate this and we'll be able to see how this works. Right, let's have a look at this then. I've commented out my code. So now we can check how this works. So I've got int day equals 3, and we very simply put in switch, I put in what we're wanting to enter into our switch. In this case, it would be day. And now we can go through our switch and see how this works. So I can say, in the case that it's 1, we could have system.out.println, let's say Monday. So this is working a little bit different to how I had it before. Now notice this keyword here that says break. This allows us, because what happens is once you have had a go at a case, it will then try to move on and check all the other cases. Using the keyword break allows it to just exit the switch case straight away, because once we've checked it against that number and it is true, we don't want it to check any others. So let's keep going down. Case 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy that code and paste it, and we'll have Tuesday, case 3, Wednesday, case 4, and you can see where this is going. Thursday, case 5, Friday, and then we'll have default. So this is a bit like your else statement, and this time we'll paste. We don't need the break for the else because it's the last one in the list, so we can say weekend. So if we run this, we should get Wednesday printed out to our screen. There you go. So you can see it's gone down, it's checked case 1, and day is not equal to 1, so it goes to the next one, 2, no, 3, 4, 5, so on. So it got to 3, system.out.println Wednesday, break, and it ended. So again, if I changed it to 6, for example, and clicked run, it'll then say weekend. There you go. So that's how a switch statement works. The last thing I'm going to talk about now is the challenge that I'm going to present you. So this time, I want you to try and make a little quiz for me, a 3-question quiz, and I want you to allow the computer to keep track of the score and tell you the score at the end. So for example, the computer might say, what's the capital of France? The user says Madrid, and you can see I've not got it right there, so the computer would then say this answer is incorrect. But if I put Paris, it should say correct answer, and then it should keep track of my score. So have a go at that challenge. That was sequence and selection. Next video will be about iteration.